perform checks using registered mobile numbers. So with a person's mobile number, you can get their NIN, and if you wish, you can do.
In the next 2 minutes, whatever song is in your spirit, because the Bible says, come with a sound.
To verify any company all across the world. This search will return to you the details of the shareholders of that company, and will also let you know who the ultimate beneficial owner of that company is. Okay, so let's get started with identity verification.
Make sure you are singing. It could be a chant. It can be a song. And it can be a sound.
So just like every other KYC verification that you perform as a company, it is mandated that you get consent from your customers. Consent is the very first step. So after inputting the last name, you must always check that you have consent from the customer.
Hallelujah!
And that's the field where you input the date of birth.
Hallelujah!
And finally the consent comes, and you click on verify. Now, as you can see, the VPN was found, and the system is returning data from the government database, right? You have all the details from that person's VPN address. Now, for fintech banks, or anyone who wants to verify VPN, you can always reference this against the details that the customer provides, and that way you can confirm the identity. Let's verify the NIN.
For you are God and God alone. Hallelujah. I said now to the Lamb upon the throne. Oh, we raise the sound. We raise the sound. Lift your hands, everybody. For He's God and God alone.
And as always, check that you have consent. Step and click on verify. Once again, the NIN is found, and all the details, all the personal details of this person, from the name down to the origin, down to the nationality, and even a copy of their signature on the government database, right? So if someone else claims this person, and provide you like the signature that is wrong, and you can see from this detail that person helps you confirms people's identities. Finally, let's do the mobile number. Let's do the mobile number. Okay, this is the company check. Now, this product is what allows you verify that companies are actual legal entities that they claim to be. And this particular feature allows you to verify any company all over the world, be it in Africa or in Europe or in the Americas. So right now we're going to verify a company in South Africa, right? Using their registration number. So this is our company, by the way, right? But as I mentioned, this is a live verification. This is not test, right? So everything that you're seeing right now is being verified right on the spot. And so, as you can see, once again, the company details is found. Name is verify. You can see the VAT number. You can see the company registration number. Can you scroll down a little bit? And of course, you can see the address of the company's registration in South Africa, Pretoria precisely. So these are some of the data that you can get when you verify companies on the YVOS. What this helps you do really is that it helps you know who exactly you're doing business with. You know, today any business can claim to be anything, and anybody can claim to be an owner in a business, right? But when you run verifications, you know who exactly owns the business, and by extension, who is the major beneficiary of whatever deal that you're cutting with such businesses. Finally, let's run the anti-money laundering check. This is done by cross-referencing the information against the global anti-money laundering blacklist, right? So we're going to do a very popular figure, and we're also going to do another popular figure, right? So the first person we're going to be running through this check is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That's quite popular, right? Last name is Tinubu. Middle name Ahmed. So as always, you must always confirm that you have consent, and then there it is. So this result is not red, and what it means is that this person is not on any anti-money laundering list. However, the report is also showing you that this person is politically exposed, right? So once again, what this does is that it helps you really know the status of the person you're trying to do business with. So while this person is not on any money laundering list, this person is politically exposed. So if that will affect your business relationship, it helps you make that decision ultimately. Let's run a neutral person through this list. So the person we're running through this check right now is Mr. Seun Folorunsho of the Nigerian FinTech Association. And as you can see, the result for this is green, which means this person is neither on any money laundering list, nor is he politically exposed, right? So naturally, this also helps you make a decision. Now, I have to mention that as a company, we do not provide any of this data to regulators, right? It's business between us and your company. So you ask us to verify, we return the data back to you. You decide whatever you want to use that data for. The only situation where we're forced to provide this data to regulators is perhaps in court cases, and if we're mandated to do so by law. Finally, I would like to talk about our address verification service, but we will not be demoing this because of time. We're now in the red zone. What our address verification product helps you do is that it helps you verify the address of your potential customers or businesses within the country and all across Africa. So as you all know that in Africa, we have a little bit of an addressing problem, right? And even Google Map is struggling to adapt to our addressing system every day. One day your ride is 5 minutes, the next day it's 30 minutes. What we have done as a company over the years is really build a solid technology that is backed by human resources to verify the location of anyone all over the country, right? So we have representatives in all 36 states of Nigeria, and we also have a superior technology that allows for geotagging, right? So this way, we verify the addresses of your potential customers, potential businesses, staff guarantors, or perhaps even your staff, right? So not only can you confirm that your customer lives somewhere, you can confirm that their guarantors work or live where they say they do, and you can also confirm the addresses of your potential business partners. I would like to go on and on, but sadly we've exhausted our time. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you have any questions, we'll be right here to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now to the next pitch. We've got Gujarati, end-to-end expense management platform enterprise solution by Gujarati Limited. A round of applause for Gujarati as they come forward for the 10-minute pitch. Again, the timer is at the back, and I believe the time starts in a bit.
Can you hear me? All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kokwala Torilope, and I'm the Business Development Manager of Gujarati Limited. All right, Gujarati, of course, is a budgeting and expense management platform It's a solution that helps finance teams in different companies to manage their expenses. I mean, isn't it very funny and amazing how at this age, a lot of companies, a lot of finance teams still get to use the manual processes, to manage their expenses. I mean, this is not sustainable. I know you agree with me, right? It is not very sustainable and it is not very optimal. A lot of finance teams in different companies still get to have a lot of things very manually. You would see that if you check your finance teams very carefully, you still use manual processes, you see that your finance teams are very tired, they might be very hungry, they are always very frustrated, all because the way they manage the spendings of the companies, the expenses of the companies, the budgets of the company is still very manual. Please play the video. All right. All right, thank you very much. I mean, I was trying to say that a lot of companies today still use spreadsheets, manual expense reports, manual processes, and these are the problems. These are problems, next slide please. These are problems because a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of finance teams are still very stuck in this very particular manual process. And when there are problems, there are definitely consequences. The consequences that comes with these kinds of problems, and when I say problem, I mean manual processes of expenses, is number one, you are not able to have, quick visibility and a very robust visibility on how money is being spent in your company. You get to find out that people spend money and you are not able to have, a robust approval process because people spend money at their will. I mean, you do a budget or you do some kinds of expenses and people are meant to spend on this budget and expenses as the case may be. And when they go out of the office, they get to spend anyhow they spend and they come back with, some people come back with fake receipts and the likes, but this is not the case when you are with budgeting. Next slide, please. All right, like I said, one of the very consequences that comes with manual management of your expenses is number one, lack of visibility. You will see that companies at the end of every year, week on week, month on month, they try to forecast for the next year because they do not have, they don't have that vastness of visibility on how they spend their money for the year, all right? And this is what budgeting can help you with. Of course, hazardous cash management, because, how can you say you want to track your expenses when there's no tool to support you? And again, there are a lot of risks, there are a lot of human errors, data entry errors, fraud, compliance issues as you would have it. And you don't have control because you're not able to set policy when it's manual. You can't set a policy on a particular spend because it's manual. When people go out, like I said, they don't have any policy that they want to key onto, they just spend as they like. And of course, you will not be able to approve a particular payment except for the fact that you've signed a paper and anybody can just spend anyhow they want to spend it. Of course, definitely, because of this kind of processes, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're not productive. Next slide. Now, what we are bringing to you today and what we're trying to tell everyone here is that we've come with a solution, which is Gujarati. Next slide, please. And with Gujarati, we have a lot of product suites, right? First of all, you are able to manage your budget and expenses. You are able to create customized budgets. You are able to keep an eye on your budget in real time. And you are able to keep control of every money that you spend every time. And another thing that is very important on Gujarati is that you can pay instantly. a lot of people use ERPs, right? But from ERPs, you cannot make payments. But on Bujeti, you can make your payment just on Bujeti. You are able to issue cards for your employees or beneficiaries for them to be able to spend per time, and you are seeing how they spend the money, and you are able to also, of course, do instant transfers, and the cards can be virtual or physical, I mean, depending on your use case, and definitely you're able to customize spend policies. Another thing that is very important for us that we have on our solution is the fact that, you know, your employees, when they have gone to spend some money and perhaps the budget that they were on, they have overshot that budget, they are able to ask and request for reimbursement. And when they request for that reimbursement, you are liable to approve or decline it at that particular point in time. So it's not that they are spending money how they want to spend it, but they are getting approval from you because they've overspent, and then you know why they need more money, and then you are giving them more money. Definitely you can decide that, you can automate that, and of course you can customize your approvals. Another thing which is quite important for a lot of us, especially in the fintech industry and SMBs, is the fact that you need reports, you need insights on everything that you do. I mean, if you don't have insights, if you don't have reports on how your money is being spent, how then do you want to know how to spend the next time? So on our platform, you get real-time insights, you have automated periodic reports, and very interestingly, the ERPs, the accounting tools that you use today, you have the opportunity to also integrate it with Bujeti. Next slide. You know, very interestingly, on our platform, you are able to, you know, spend multi-currency. You know, it means that you're not just limited to Naira. You know, you can do USD, you can do Naira, because we know that you have vendors that are not Nigerian, you know, Nigerian vendors and don't spend Naira. Of course, you can also manage your payroll, you know, so you can pay your employees on our platform, and definitely different companies, different approval flows, different approval levels. You can also customize your approval levels on our platform. Another thing that you can do is definitely you can manage your vendors, you can manage your teams, you can manage your expense heads, categories as you'd have it, meaning that on our platform, if you want to spend money or send money to a particular vendor, you can create that vendor. And so you as the manager or you as a team head or the finance person, you know what vendor is receiving what money at what time. You know what team member is receiving what money at what time. You know what category of payment this payment is being made of. So I know that a lot of people have, you know, you have your tools that you use today, but what Bujeti is bringing to us today is the fact that on that particular platform, on our platform, you are able to pay and consolidate everything about your expenses on our platform. You don't need to go on another platform to pay. You don't need to go on another platform to budget. You don't need to go on another platform to track. You can do all of those things on our platform. You can generate your reports, like I said. You can export reports, do a lot of things you want to do on the reports as you have it. I mean, you can do so much more on our platform. We're calling you today to be a part of us. How can you be a part of us? Of course, you can just visit bujeti.com to get started. How do you get started? You can book for a demo with us. We're very happy to have you and book a demo with you. We can show you everything we've built, you know, on our platform. Interestingly, we're, you know, currently running our beta, and we're calling a lot of you people to come and, you know, be our exclusive users for free. You know, so you come on our platform, use our platform, check what we've been able to build for the past couple of months, and we'll be glad to have you. Thank you very much for this wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for Bujeti. I believe they pitched in less than 10 minutes. So they gave us the time and just said, we dash it to you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Now we're moving on to a master class on environment, social governance, and risk management for the fintech ecosystem. And we begin with fintech and governance, and I'm honored to invite Ayodele Adeyemi Faboya, a partner at Banwo and Igodalo, to please come up for the presentation. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'll actually be speaking on fintech and risk management. not fintech and governance. I've been told I have 10 minutes and I have the dubious honor of speaking first. So that means I have to actually keep to time. So there'll be no banter. We're just going to go straight into the learning. Where are my slides? Shaun, I hope you have not started my timer. Okay, I'll start talking, but don't start counting because my slides are not up. So I'll be talking today generally about the effects of bad risk management practices. Okay, how does this work? Sorry, Shaun, please help me. Okay, yeah. So I'll be talking about the effects of bad risk management practices first, and then hopefully if I have scared you enough to pay attention to the rest of what I have to say, I will then go into the categories of the risks in the fintech ecosystem, and then we'll talk about steps to good risk management practices, and then conclude hopefully within the 10 minutes. So going into, I think, I should point it here. Not working on. Aha. Okay. You guys have to add more time. Your clicker is not working. So effects of bad risk management practices, the obvious ones, regulatory sanction. You could lose your license. You could be fined. You could lose profits. There's reputational damage. We're in social media era. I mean, everybody knows one viral scandal and that could be the end of it. And I don't need to tell anybody here that customers, they are fickle. They will leave you quick because the competition is fierce. So you could lose almost everything with reputational damage. And then there's loss of shareholder funds, which means that you don't just lose profit, but you're at risk of losing capital as well. And then of course, the risk of lawsuits. But it's not just that, it could be a lot worse, right? This headline right here is a real headline. And if you look at the date, it's quite recent. Those that are familiar with this case would remember that these gentlemen were not accused of fraud. They didn't do anything, there was no sharp practice. What happened was that there was no fintechs, there was no risk management, there was no compliance risk management, there was no operational risk management, and that led to this. Now, there are people here that will say, well, I have nothing to do with America. My business is in Nigeria, and I'm not an American citizen. But guess what? Even the CBN admin sanctions regime contains imprisonment as one of the punishments for some of the breaches in that regulation. So guess what? If it be you. But that's why we are here today, to make sure that it is not you. So going quickly, if I have your attention now into categories of risk, I'll start with compliance and regulatory risk. Now, first one I'll talk about is local licensing and reporting. When you enter into a market, one of the most important things to do is to ask, what are the licensing and reporting requirements that this product, this service, the governance of this business is subject to? And you're not the one to answer that question. Neither is your friend qualified to answer that question because he started this business 2 years ago. The appropriate person to answer that question is an expert. And I always tell people, when you come into a market, commission a regulatory inception report. Let them show you all the obligations that you are subject to right from the beginning. And then ongoing, ensure that you subscribe to a regulatory watch service so that you're up to date. Now, it might cost you money in the beginning, but guess what? It could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars going down the line. So, and then looking at AML CFT, I mean, I don't have to talk too much about this. Everybody is aware of AML CFT regulations. The one thing I want to mention is that it's now strict compliance. You can't afford to go half measures. So there's strict compliance now when it comes to AML CFT. And you have to make sure that it's not even just local legislation. A lot of times stakeholders look for higher standards nowadays. So that's one thing to note. And then we're looking at KYC as well. Thank God for YouVerify. They've made KYC easy, and YouVerify, I'll collect my commission afterwards, right? They've made KYC easy, so what's your excuse? People will often say that fintech is supposed to be nimble, it's supposed to be quick and easy. KYC slows the process down. But I will advise you, never ever sacrifice your KYC on the altar of nimbleness. It will come back and it will bite you. And then also data protection and privacy. Many people are familiar with NDPR, you're familiar with GDPR, you know that there are data protection requirements. Many people are also familiar with the fact that, yes, I can't just transfer data abroad, I can't store data abroad, there are restrictions. But then let's focus on things like data retention. How long do you keep customer data, even when they are no longer active? What's the state in which you keep the customer data? Do you anonymize it, for instance, or do you just leave it with all the personal identifying factors? And for how long? What's the regulation in the jurisdictions in which you're operating? And this is not just the jurisdiction in which you are incorporated, but the jurisdictions in which you operate, in which you collect data from. What's the regulation, for instance, in relation to retention and anonymization? This is why you need an expert. You need to be aware of these things. Otherwise, the risk might come and bite you. And then things like big data. We have data, right? And we all know the value of big data. You can use it, you can mine it, you can get customer-focused information from this data. You can use it to customize your data, risk assessment and management. Oh, how wonderful. But in the jurisdictions in which you operate, are you allowed to use big data in this way? What are the implications? For instance, the EU is looking at big data controllers and is looking at them and saying, look, we need to put more focus on these guys in relation to antitrust issues, in relation to market share. So when you are using big data in certain jurisdictions, you have to be aware of the implications of this big data that you're using. It's not just a case of, oh, I have data and I'm using it. And then we move to operational risk. So day-to-day operational risk is actually where a lot of people miss this thing. You have things like technology risk, yes, cyber threats, cyber security, everybody's aware of that. But what about your licensing? Do you actually have the license that allows you to exploit the technology? Many people don't pay attention to things like assignment agreements, licensing agreements. You're using templates. You're getting your neighbor to look at it for you because your neighbor wears a wig and gown. Technology is the bedrock of fintech. And if the technology is the bedrock of fintech, you owe it to yourself and your company to ensure that that technology is actually right. You actually have the right authorizations and the right powers to exploit that technology. And then things like third-party risk. Typically, this will come in form of customers or come in form of partners. And this usually we would mitigate with KYC, we would mitigate contractually. You very fast spoken about KYC. Do you know your guy? Do you know this partner? Are they on the sanctions list? Will you be guilty by association? Those are things that you need to think about. And then contractually, what is your liability allocation? You're going into a partnership to deliver a product. What is the liability allocation? What is the liability limitation? Those are important things to look at in contracts. And then that's more important when you look at things like robo-advisory, when you look at things like your smart contracts, like the fact that people are outsourcing core banking to the cloud. Those kind of things become more important when you then think of the fact that there are multi-jurisdictional components in these things. And so it's important to really understand, for instance, the statutory liability allocation framework when you are going into this thing so that you don't end up carrying the bag of risk. And then, of course, enforcement. Many of us use smart contracts. The customers love it. Click a button and it's done. But smart contracts are actually not enforceable in every jurisdiction. And this is something that one should consider. And then intellectual property. Is it registered? Do you have your appropriate protection language? And then my favorite one, corporate organizational risk. And this is something that applies to a lot of startups. In a rush to just move forward, develop and start and get into the market, many people fail to address strategic risks at inception. So do you have the right corporate structure? Simple things like, do you have a shareholders agreement? Do you have director contracts? Are your supply chain agreements in place? It's quite disheartening, the number of fintechs that we see that are stuck and cannot scale because of disputes that could have been avoided by a very simple contract. And then strategic risk. I mean, that's the more quiet one, the slow poison. Strategic risk essentially involves future risk management by contingency planning. So what is your business continuity plan, for instance? And I've just set out here, I mean, I've spoken about mitigation as I've spoken, right? But I've set out here some of the other mitigation strategies. So your business continuity plan, you need forward-thinking structuring, you need to have inbuilt flexibility in your structuring. Of course, hire an expert, hire a lawyer, subscribe to regulatory watch services. Change control processes are very important. Many people don't pay attention to them. And then, of course, your regulatory obligations must be inbuilt into your contracts. Don't separate your contracts from regulatory framework, right? It's one and all. And then, of course, operational risk, you need to ensure that you have good risk management software or a good risk manager at the very least. And then engage in real-time suspicious activity monitoring. I mean, we had a client come to us and, of course, the partner refused to take bare liability because what should have been reported 6 months ago was only just being discovered down the line, and they had the obligation to monitor and to report. So you can avoid massive fraud if you just monitor and report. And then, of course, corporate governance, which Joseph will speak about, and then liability insurance. Professional liability insurance is important. I mean, that's something that many people don't think about. And then, of course, I have set out some of the applicable laws in Nigeria. There are many of them, and there are many that are not in Nigeria, but are also applicable. You can't see them, they are very tiny, but don't worry, your lawyers know them. This is another reason why you need a lawyer, because otherwise you have to think about all of these laws. Okay, so to conclude, I think I'm 1 minute over. I've said that risk management framework requires implementing structured policies. That's the first step. You have to articulate your risk appetite. You have to establish strong internal controls. Honestly, risk management starts, it's from inside. It starts from like Aaron's, how do they say it in the Bible? The oil from Aaron's beard, it flows down. So it starts from the board, it starts from senior management. They set the tone and then it flows down. And then, of course, you must ensure that you have risk assessments and you have adequate oversight. Board oversight of risk management is key. If you don't have a risk management committee and things don't come to the board, then you are setting yourself up for failure in the future. And then the regulators are here, so I'll say this. Regulators also have a role to play. Fintech risk will ultimately become systemic risk because of the role that fintechs have started to play in the financial system. And so regulators also have a duty to reconstruct their own systematic financial risk prevention and control methods. And the only way they can do this is to understand the fintechs. How do you do this? We look at things like sandboxes. So the regulators also have a duty to ensure that they're helping to ensure there's proper risk management in fintech. Thank you very much. I wasn't really over time.
Thank you very much. Ayodele Adeyemi Fabo.